Tuesday, February...
No, Monday,
Monday,
February 13th.
February 13th.
Day before Valentine's Day.
We have one agenda item. I guess we have to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're here for presentation by the school department on their budget. And whenever you're ready, Mary.
Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight?
Great.
Good,
Hi.
good. Thank you for having us. We appreciate your time. Mr. Kelly's going to start us off this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Coming out under these challenging wintry conditions, but we all got here safely. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but we want to give you an overall view of where the district is and what we're doing, and of course, assessment numbers for this upcoming fiscal year, FY18. We're going to talk about some terms, just as a reminder, enrollment trends, get into the assessment and look at that from several different areas. And then we're going to talk a little politics and revenue in the Foundation Budget Review Commission and how we can partner as a municipality and a school region to improve the funding, which will be good for both parties. And then, of course, open it up to any questions. But if you have questions when you have them, just ask them. You don't have to wait to the end. A couple of terms, foundation budget, just in case you don't remember, because school budgeting can be quite complicated. The foundation budget is the state formula used to determine an adequate spending level for every school district in the state. It equals the Chapter 70 plus the required local contribution. Factors that go into determining those numbers are foundation enrollment, inflation, and the wage adjustment factor. The foundation enrollment is the count of the students for whom a district is financially responsible. So not all the count of the kids who go to Ayer Shirley Regional, but all the kids in Ayer that go to school that we're responsible for. So that would exclude private school kids. All right, so everyone who goes to a charter or choices out or goes to the tech or goes to Ayer Shirley Regional, that makes up the foundation enrollment number. Chapter 70, that's the law that contains the formula for how much state aid we will get in terms of supporting education in order to reach the foundation budget number. Required local contribution, this is the dollar amount that's required from local property taxes to support education. So the foundation budget, also known as net school spending, is the combination of state aid, which is Chapter 70, plus required local contribution, which is property taxes from that local district, that local town or region. So those are our terms. What you're looking at here is since 1993 in education reform, one of the things that were identified in ed reform was that the formula was not funding education fully or appropriately. And so they changed the formula, and for the first 10 years, the amount of money sent to districts municipalities in order to support education basically doubled. It went from $2.5 billion to just a smidge under $5 billion. However, you'll notice from 03 to 15, the last 10 years, it's basically stayed flat. Now, you certainly have heard year after year the budget that's come out of the State House, first introduced by the governor and then goes to the House and the Senate, and then they come to the agreed upon number, has talked about how the cost for education has increased. And there have been some increases, but you can see by the data that it's been basically flat, and we'll show more data as it applies specifically to our region with respect to funding. Another funding area is charter reimbursement. One of the goals of the regional school district was to have more kids stay in the district and fewer kids leave to go to charter because it's a very expensive proposition. When kids go to charter school, there is a reimbursement formula that the state uses in order to lessen the blow. Because what happens in the charter scenario is the Chapter 70 money comes into the school district and then we write checks, which really hurts. Their funding reimbursement formula starts with, did you have more charter tuition payments than you had last year? If you did, then you can start to talk about reimbursements. And then it goes out 5 years, 25% a year. What I'm showing here, if you get to the very end, is part of our challenge, which is that we haven't been adding a lot of kids to charter, so we're not qualifying for big reimbursements at all. Those kids have been in charter schools for a while, and that's it. They're gone, and we just keep sending the money, state to us, to the charter. In the formula that the state does, or in the budget that the state puts together each year, this is what, open for appropriation, right? Subject to appropriation, that's the phrase. And the appropriation hasn't been there. So if you look we're supposed to get a little over $52,000 in reimbursements in our budget this year. However, we're going to get a little under $3,000. The reason for that is there's not enough money that's been appropriated to do the reimbursements for the second, third, fourth, and fifth year of the student being in the charter school. They're putting all the money, that $50 million, that aid is going to districts that have kids who go to charter schools that have more kids than they did last year. So they get that first year 100% reimbursement, so they don't feel the pain the first year, but then as you can see, the pain gets spread out pretty strongly over the next 6. So that's an area of underfunding. Regional transportation is also an area of underfunding. This is supposed to be, the original promise was we're going to mandate that you provide transportation, and as a way to help with that mandate, we will refund you 100% for that transportation. And we're to the point now where we're excited to get 65%. But that still means it's underfunded.
Pat, do you have any figures for 15 and 16?
You have 15 and 16 regional?
We do.
It was 65 last year. FY16.
Percentage or dollar amount?
Percentage.
It was about 62% for 16, I believe.
And 65, you said for 15?
I thought it was 65 last year, Bill.
Not on the budget, but
I think it was around 65 last year. State, it didn't really
Been right in
increase.
that
Right.
neighborhood.
They basically level funded.
Okay.
Excuse me, from 13 to 14, they did increase, as you can see, but then it's pretty much been level funded. All of your legislators and, all of the regional district, they go to the House and they advocate strongly for this, and we've all called and sent letters, but they don't fund it at what they said.
Right.
And just keeping in mind, as Pat said, that was a promise that was made to the district, a commitment that if you regionalize and cut costs, we will give you 100% for your transportation. And
Yep.
okay, the district student enrollment. From FY15 to FY17, we're showing you here how enrollment has increased every year and what we're projecting it to increase to FY18. The text box at the bottom, you'll see the bar graphs and you'll see the numbers for total enrollment, what our out-of-district numbers are, which means those are special education students who are placed in residential or day programs, and the total numbers from 15 to 18. So from FY16 to FY17, we added 24 students, or 1.5%. Total enrollment for next year, we're projecting an increase of 30 students, which would be another 1.7%. And overall, from FY15, we've increased our enrollment by 3.7%. And I would remind you, this is in the context of declining enrollments, particularly in the central Mass areas, that there's a lot of discussion among districts trying to regionalize and to try to keep their enrollment numbers up. So it's something to be very proud of, that the numbers have been increasing here.
Mary, I know the Neshoba tech's been decreasing, especially this past year. Aaron Shirley has had the lowest enrollment for freshman class. And it saves us $100,000, but it's not good for the school. Do you have any ideas why?
Well, I think that I remember being before you my very first year as superintendent and talking about the Neshoba Tech enrollment, and I, prior to regionalization, upon graduating from 8th grade in Shirley, students went to 3 high schools. So Neshoba Tech was a top choice. And I think I stated very clearly, from my perspective as a school superintendent, we want students going to Neshoba Tech. For those that have their choice, their career path is that vocational component. We don't want students leaving Ayer Shirley Regional School District because it's not a good school district and you can't get a high quality. So I think the numbers just shifted based on the fact that students wanting to go to Neshoba Tech, they applied and got in, and then the students that chose their local high school to remain at that high school path, they came to the high school. So it wasn't anything. We certainly advocate for choice when it's the right fit for students, and so.
Michelle?
I just want to add, as a parent of a current 9th grader, I know a lot of students, when they toured our new high school, were very impressed. And, sometimes, or maybe before the building project was complete, students would, kind of not see the high school as being a superior option, and then once they were able to get in the building, see what it was like and see what the school was going to offer them, I think a lot of kids that maybe would have opted for the tech have changed their minds and decided to go to the high school.
Okay.
I think that was a big reason.
All right, thank
you. So this is going back to the foundation enrollment that Pat was talking about. What Chapter 70 is, how we get the funding in Chapter 70. And again, I'm sorry that the laser doesn't show on a TV screen, but looking from FY07 all the way up to FY17, you can see that the numbers have decreased, and that they have increased a total for us. Those years of like FY11, if you look at Shirley, that was the year before you actually regionalized, because it was FY12 that actually took effect. So you can see 879, those students were leaving.
Yeah, I think the district numbers are more impressive when you look at this, right? Because over this 10-year period, you have only 6 more kids in Ayer going to school than you did in 07, right? There's a big drop of kids in Shirley, but if you look at the last 3 years, from 825 to 809, and then up to 830, and then the anticipation for FY13 is another 14 new students in Shirley. So there's been a little bit of growth going on there. And the number of kids they've had in the district is now going to be going up by 45 kids in a 2-year period. So.
And also encourage you, in the budget book, we have some charts in there of census data from both towns and births and things like that, so you can correlate some of those charts to the enrollment in each town. Choice and charter trends. So the blue is your choice students, and the charter are your red students. Okay, so we have a 26% decrease from FY12 to FY17. In FY12, 142.5 we're choicing out, versus now this year we're down to 119.5. So we actually have about 9.5 students choicing in. And when you say 0.5, it's not a half a student. They just do it by what they call FTEs in the school year. So, and then, of course, the charter numbers from 104, FY12 down to 70, FY17. That's a pretty significant decrease for those students electing to come to the Ayer Shirley Regional School District after the great decision that you all made to regionalize. And these show the funding of the amount of money from money going out for choice and charter on the same years, 23.5% decrease.
And for the past 2 years, we were net positive on choice and charter. So there's more money coming in than going out, which certainly wasn't the case prior to regionalization, as you're probably all well aware of. I didn't know if you might have noticed that there's a 26% decrease in the number of students, but only 23.5% decrease in the money part. And a lot of that has to do with that graph or table I showed you earlier in terms of tuition reimbursement schedule.
Bill, do you want to talk a few minutes about, this is the cherry sheet that we get from the
Sure.
department, the
This
state?
is the calculation for Ayer Shirley. On the left-hand side, it shows prior year Chapter 70 money at $8.144 million. This year's foundation budget at $17,793,000, and then the required local district contribution. That's the combination of Ayer and Shirley's contributions. Subtract that gives you the foundation aid that the state is supposed to provide. We're already above it, so we're held harmless at the $20 per student. So we bring the 8179 over to the right side, the right top side, and plug it in for FY18. It shows a $35,000 increase in Chapter 70, which is a 0.43% increase. It also breaks out the required local contribution increase from 17 to 18, which was $353,000. And the graphs at the bottom right show you the distribution of the funds. Actually, the foundation budget first remains pretty stable, and the required local distribution is increasing a little bit, slightly, and Chapter 70 is basically flat. There is $20 per student.
A curiosity question. I know over the last couple of years it came out that I guess Shirley's required local contribution wasn't where it should be per the calculations. I think it was 1 year where they had a significant increase and then they pared back on the calculations. Is that still the case?
No, they met the target.
Okay.
Yeah, Ayer and Shirley both on
They're
target.
at target this year.
Yeah. So they actually get a reduction. Ayer and Shirley actually get a reduction in the foundation aid because they're above they're at the target.
Excuse me, Bill, but where they've gotten whacked is last 2 years, this year and last, is more kids.
Foundation
So their foundation enrollment has gone up, so
enrollment
their
has
required
gone
local contribution is going to commensurate with that. So they're at their target is what they're supposed to be contributing, but more kids coming in, that they're going to see a couple
Bigger
of
hit.
steep increases
Right.
every year.
2 years in a row.
Thank you.
When we show you the assessment chart, you'll see the RLC increase for Shirley. And Ayers went up too, even though you were down a student, but
Yeah. That graph, so you can see the most significant increase is on the required district contribution, right? That's local property tax. That's what I was talking about earlier, right? The Chapter 70 aid is going up, but at a smaller rate, and the requirement on the municipality in the form of money out of property taxes is increasing at a more significant rate.
And it's based on income as well, property tax and income.
okay.
So the next slide drills down one level and shows you the breakdown. Shows you the breakdown between Ayer and Shirley. Again, comparing FY 17 and 18. Ayer, the total district foundation enrollment is 1771. That's for the district. Those are the members of the students in foundation enrollment that are going to the Ayer Shirley Regional District. We've gone up 13, and that's because Ayer is down 1 and Shirley is up 14. So the net is a positive 13. And then over to the right, again, you see the required local contribution going up 353,000, and then how it's apportioned between Shirley and Ayer. And you can see Shirley has a significant, a larger amount than Ayer does, and that's because of the increase in the enrollment to Ayer Shirley from Shirley.
So the very numbers on the right, the $120,025 for Ayer is an RLC increase, and $233,436 is the increase to Shirley's RLC, which becomes part of the increase to the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular chart, Bill, is for Ayer only.
This is Ayer only, and this shows you your complete foundation enrollment, which breaks out Ayer Shirley and Neshoba Tech. They're two districts that you're sending students to. And the upper numbers are FY17, so You've gone down one student to Ayer Shirley from 1,000 to 999, and there's your $120,000 increase over FY17. And then to Neshoba Tech, you've gone down 8 students for a net savings of 68,000. So your net increase of your required local contribution is 51,542 when you take those both districts into consideration.
All set? This way, okay. Special education, our district's costs. We've been talking about special education. This is my 3rd year coming and presenting the budget to the town of Ayer, and the special education costs continue to rise. FY17, the cost range placements were from 18,000 to 257,000. FY18 projected, the bottom line, most expensive one, was a little bit lower, but you can see that the minimum rate is increasing significantly. We had to increase our out-of-district tuitions by 5% this year. That was the number percentage we were given to by the OSD that sets that number. So we're looking at FY17, our out-of-class placements, 2,725,200, which is 9.2% of the total budget. Next year we're looking at 3,072,698, which is 10% of the total budget. And you can have, as I've said several times, you can have a student be placed out of district at any time, and we just had a student that was placed out of district last week.
There's just some new move-ins in there as well, there. That's driving the FY18.
Yeah, but most of it is the 5%. We have one move out and one move in. We're trying to increase our what we call a continuum of services, meaning what we start to services we provide in kindergarten, we want to provide all the way through grade 12 so we can keep kids in district. And the one program that we have added those services for the spectrum, the Asperger's autism spectrum, trying to keep those kids in district. The high school did not have a program. We implemented that program last year, so now it goes K through 12. And to Dan's point of some kids increasing, yes, so one student we will absorb. When students move during a school year, the receiving district doesn't become responsible for that tuition to the following fiscal year. So sometimes you're in cross years between assuming tuitions and such. So our increased fixed costs for FY18, our salary adjustments for all employees. As you know, we negotiated a contract last year for the largest group of employees, which is the teachers unit. You can see the sped district tuitions is $347,000. To our budget is 13%. The increase to our tuitions is at 5%, as I stated a few minutes ago. Health insurance is up 8%. We were fortunate, Bill, can you explain? We originally were starting with 11%, but because
we instituted some plan design changes last year. We had some co-payments and out-of-pocket expenses that we were able to tweak on our HMO, and we realized $60,000 in savings for the district and $20,000 for the employees. So that did help out with the budget. So we looked at the numbers again, forecasted out for FY18 at the rates that were just provided by Maya, and with an 8% increase, we'll be right where we need to be for FY18. So we really did scrub that number this year after those plan design changes.
Yeah. When Bill and I first started working on the budget for FY18, we were at 11% until we keep working with the numbers. And I do want to commend the educators in the district for being willing to compromise and to reduce, not only for the district, but for themselves, but for the district as well. So
I think ours went up 12%.
Yeah, we had 24 months of claims that are driving our renewal, and that's still on there. We have some pretty high claims from last few years.
You don't need many.
No.
No, and unfortunately, those people that don't have good health, we certainly, special education transportation, that's going up by 4%, and we did increase the maintenance contracts, so the Laura White, the middle school, and the Page Hilltop for each school. The high school's contract is adequate, and the maintenance contracts for the other 3 schools hadn't been increased in a few
Forever.
years, right? So that's just mainly with inflation, and not because of any other reason. And then the workers' comp increased by $20,000, which was 22%, and that was just, we belong to that large group, Bill, and
Yeah, there was a mod set by the state,
Yeah.
and our payroll audit drives it. It's basically a pretty simple calculation.
yeah.
You see there's 3 items that make up the bulk of the 1,056,000. It's all but 90,000 is those first 3 items, which are, with any employer, those are your big, sped tuitions is a wild card for us. That's pretty unique, but for salaries and
Salary benefits are,
Yeah. Well, we're a business that employs people. That's what our commodity is, if you will. We're a human resource business. And then insurance, FY18 by $20,000. That's the high school, the new building. So all told, our increased costs are up $1,056,817. And we're going to turn you now to the revenue the district took in. As Bill spoke to before, the governor's budget, which we know this is the first iteration of the state budget, well versed in that, increased Chapter 70, $20 per student, which for us translated into $35,420. Regional school transportation, he's level funded. The charter tuition reimbursement, it's basically level funded. School choice receiving tuition, we do have a net. I spoke of those 9 students. And so we do have a bit of a net there. So total estimated receipts coming in for FY18 is projected at $98,415. And
That's the change. That's the increase from 17 to 18.
yeah. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Well, right. And then special education, level funded, school choice sending tuition, level funded, charter school sending tuition, we're up, as Mr. Kelly was explaining to you. So our charges are increased over $9,000. So we're looking at a net revenue stream of about $88,000, which, looking at this chart here, it gives you a better picture. Our fixed cost increase at $1,056,817. We have additional revenue at $88,769. If you do the numbers, we are at a net loss, if you will, of $968,048. So this here shows the preliminary assessments at this time. Our total operating assessment excluded debt, $18,931,232. So the assessment is at $789,939, which is 4.4% in the increase to the assessment. And if you look at the breakdown of Ayer, Ayer's assessment $11,407,150,000. The increase to the town's assessment is $327,406, which is a 3% increase to the town. And then the breakdown, your RLC went up by $120,025, and then the assessment from the district is $207,381. And I'll stop there for a second to give people time to process, and if you have any questions.
You might have noticed that the difference between the fixed cost increase and the additional revenue was $968, but we're only increasing it by $789. We've been able to find some efficiencies that Dr. Malone will talk about a little later on, so that we don't have to go back to the communities for $968. We cut as much as we could before we hit as far as we could go.
And you see the Shirley assessment on that side. Their increase is at 6.6% due to their increase of the RLC at $233,436, and then the ASRSD assessments at $229.97.
Well, the 4.4 average between the two,
Yes, for the increase of the assessment is, yes.
and we had, we're going up 2.2% with all our departments.
Municipal budgets projected range between 1.7 and 2.2% increase for FY18.
These are just, I shouldn't say just because it minimizes it, these are district needs, and you'll see in this budget how we are meeting some of those district needs. You all certainly support that great communities, vibrant communities are built upon great school districts, and we're trying to bring the best school district, the best education to the students in this district. They deserve it, and it's our obligation. So right now, our special ed director, one of the things that happens in a small district is that you have many people wearing many hats. And so administrative-wise, our special education director is the early childhood coordinator. She's the out-of-district coordinator. And so that's a lot in the positions, particularly when you have 38 students out of district, because those are meetings and a lot of, and you really want to be able to be appropriate and be knowledgeable, and when you go to these meetings, trying to bring students back. Our literacy coach to support our curriculum. We were able to hire, last year I brought a mathematics coach in my budget, but this year through one of the grants, we hired a retired math teacher, and we were able to fund that person in the grant at $31 a contractual rate. And of course, that person does not require health insurance, so that was a way to bring that person to the district, and they've done extremely well, and the teachers have been really happy and supported by this particular position. And districts are all moving to one-to-one environments. Our two neighboring districts, Littleton and Harvard, are both going to one-to-one initiatives in their schools, and that's something that we need to move to. Grade 6 to 8, the ELA, we have, they're in dire need of resources there. Social studies resources, again, they've been using books that have been in the district for years. We're going to hold off on that because they're adopting new standards in social studies. And K to 8 science resources, certainly the department adopted new science standards, the next generation science standards. This year, our staff are learning and unpacking those standards, and next year we'll be wanting to buy new resources for those classrooms.
Doing real good with the science.
Yeah.
Which is good. Robotics.
Yes, we are. And if you look at our performance, our achievement, science is up. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
What does the acronym ELA mean again?
English language arts.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah. Reading and writing. No, you wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. Reading and
That's the
writing.
thing about acronyms after a while, you like.
Yeah,
what's
that's
that one?
true.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Then moving on to, school districts do not generate revenue, but we certainly want to be responsible to the towns and to the taxpayers and do our part in trying to reduce expenses and increase revenue. We've reduced expenses and electricity costs. Effective July 1st, we will now obtain our electricity through an aggregate purchase, and we've put that $64,000 and reduced it in this budget for FY18. And through the efforts of the town of Shirley and the school committee, we've entered into a net metering contract with Seaboard Solar Operations, which will bring an additional savings in the coming year. Mr. Plunkett talked about the health insurance design changes, and through the community work program, we have had the inmates since I've come to the district, and I believe I wrote in your executive summary, it's about over 1,500 hours of labor from them, and they've done a lot of work of cleaning and painting and helping with the landscaping. And how do we generate revenue? We took in the partnership with the Cambridge Institute to bring in some international students to increase the diversity and opportunity for our students. I call it study abroad at home. We received a generous donation of $60,000 from Ayer residents, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Norton, and they have directed us to use these funds to purchase K-5 literacy books. I look to try to cost share with our neighbors, Littleton and Harvard, on professional development. Last summer, Harvard and I collaborated in our Summer Institute for the Administration. We cost shared professional development providers. In the world of education, a professional development provider starts about $1,500 a day and can go up to $3,000, $3,500. It's prohibitive. And when you're a small district, if you have 5 educators, it's still $1,500. If you have 20, so it's certainly. And right now, I'm meeting with both superintendents in Harvard and Littleton to talk about our PD next year for our educators, and we're trying to maybe coordinate our PD calendars and so on and so forth, so that we can bring to our educators high-quality professional development to improve their practice. The high school auditorium, as you've been there for your town meetings, it's a beautiful facility, and we're increasing advertising and our rentals to generate money for the district as well.
Do you belong to the Green Communities? State?
No.
Can they participate?
Yes, as a district, yeah.
In the green communities?
Grants
Okay.
for energy. I mean, we've gotten, oh man,
Yeah,
$250,000.
through the chair, the Department of Energy Resources for the state has the Green Community Program. I know Ayer became one in 2011, and I think Shirley did in 2012. And we could help you with the application process. Make a long story short, when you're accepted into the designation, they give you a $150,000 grant for an energy reduction project. But then you're in the system, if you will. They offer competitive grants each year for energy reduction projects. So in Ayer's experience, as the chair mentioned, we got the $150,000 when we became designated. We got another $150,000, and then we got a $250,000. So over the last 6 years, it's pretty beneficial. So maybe something to consider. I know that Shirley did it as well. So I think the 2 towns with the district could help with the application and so forth.
Sure. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
We did it with, this year we bought the streetlights from National Grid for $1. And we're gonna put all the LEDs in
Right.
with the Green Communities grants, so.
So those are grants, not the previous system that they had where they wanted you to borrow the money and put
Yeah.
the stuff in.
Right. No, it's a
Which was a loser.
right. It's you get initial grant, which is great,
Yep.
and then you're part of the competitive. And school districts can specifically be their own entity in it.
Region, yeah.
Yeah, regional district.
Yeah, it's paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah. This particular chart shows you the assessment history from FY15. FY16, the assessment was at 6.5%. Last year was down to 4.96%, and this year we're down to 4.7. The number you showed with the 4.4 was with the debt,
Yes.
and that's why you see the 4.7 there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron's portion of the debt is down $30,000.
When's it get to zero, Bill?
There was a lot of lines on that schedule.
Couple more years.
Come on, Gary, you know how that works.
Yeah. To sum up, what are some of the district initiatives in this budget? I talked about the electricity aggregate purchase. I talked about the net metering contract. We are going to be looking at providing one-to-one Chromebooks for grade 9 students. We're going to encumber that money, the 120, in the hardware in the FY18 budget. And then we're looking for that PD piece, and that's where I'm working with Littleton and Harvard, because you can't just get Chromebooks and give them to the students, and it just doesn't. We need to provide staff that training to really integrate technology and change instruction. Increased maintenance contracts. You saw that. We're hiring, I should say, an athletic trainer. You may have heard our sports program is expanding profusely. This indoor track went from 38 students to about 88 this past year, and they won the league meet for the first time in 6 years. And so the athletic director also requested some new equipment at $5,000. We have to hire an outdoor track coach at $2,500, again, due to the increased participation. The high school dues and registration fees have been under budgeted for quite a few years, so we've increased that to meet the demand. And the next year, the NEASC accreditation begins, and the following year, it'll be about a $20,000 increase of the budget, what they charge you to do that process. We're going to add another AP course at the high school, statistics, and we'll be purchasing textbooks for that, about 20. We anticipate between 15 to 20 students enrolling in that course. And we're going to have 2 new electives at the high school, video pre-production and video post-production. And a few slides ago, I alluded or talked about the international students and collecting tuitions. We'll be using those tuitions to pay for the instructor. We are part, as you know, APAC is now in the high school, so we're finally going to be able to integrate the studio into the high school. And in Shirley, they have their studio, they have a set there, if you will, in the middle school. So those students that are really interested in that can continue that to the high school. Accelerated Math, that's a specialized mathematics program for struggling learners and accelerated learners. And so we increased that. It's an online program, and that's a lot of what the math coach this year supported in training teachers. The district textbooks, we've increased that line to $55,000 to begin the purchase for the middle school ELA resources. And most of the requests from the department heads and principals, we were able to either reallocate or increase the budget, as you've seen. We had to increase the compensation to the nurse leader. Last year we didn't have a nurse leader because we were only paying a stipend of $2,000, and we could not get anyone to do the job. The gal we had the prior year was fabulous. She said, I can't do it. When we were able to increase her compensation, she's back and she's excellent. We're maintaining reasonable class size. We have very good student-teacher ratios. Averages about 20 students to 1 teacher, which is excellent. There will be no reductions to staff, programs, or services.
Thank you, Dr. Malone. So we're going to close this out and talk a little bit more about kind of partnership and higher level, again, education funding. This comes from, some of you may have attended the workshop that we did up at the high school. And what I'm trying to point out here is that if you look at that column, actual net school spending as a percentage of required net school spending, right? We've been over as a district by 13%, 16%, 21%, and the number continues in that general direction. The shortfall gap from 12 to 5 to 2017 has gone up by about 10%, meaning the difference that the local community has to make up versus the state aid that we receive from the state of Massachusetts in order to fund education. So the gap continues to get bigger with a larger burden on property taxes on the municipality, right? So the challenge for us is, I think, probably, Dan and I have been doing it for a while, and Michelle here in the town of Ayer is, and surely the folks from the town of Shirley, we go every year and ask for a budget and, catch the hairy eyeball from everybody because it's always like we're trying to take everybody else's money. And what we want to explain is what is actually happening. As a school district, we have limited ability to increase revenue, right? We're trying a few things. We have some things we can rent out now. We're even looking at the fields because we think that might be a revenue source in the future. But come on, we can't raise that much money. So we have to come back to the towns, that's it. However, this is an area where we can partner together because there's clearly a huge gap in terms of the funding that's going on. The Foundation Budget Review Commission, which was done by the legislature, found that there was an annual $2 billion underfunding of education. And it primarily is in these 3 areas. The original formulas put together in 1993 haven't been updated to account for what it actually costs for school districts to provide health insurance, to deal with special education, and to deal with out-of-district costs for special education. So if you take a look at our budget from FY15 and you see what the foundation budget says the number should be, meaning how much you should be paying for health care and special education and out-of-district placement, compare that to what we actually had to spend on those, and it's off by $1.5 million. So if we have to spend that money because we have to deliver on those things, but that means we're underfunded in other line items, programming, salary, whatever, right? So the FBRC, the Foundation Budget Review Commission, uncovered this and put together a plan. And that plan Oh, I can't believe I misspelled foundation. That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible.
Ooh.
Typing too quickly. The FBRC,
Could work for the
and
department.
specifically Senator Chang
Called
Diaz,
accountability.
yeah, has sponsored SD 1905. So that's a bill that exists today in the Mass Legislature called an Act Modernizing the Foundation Budget for the 21st Century. This is where we need the partnership between the regional district, town of Ayer, town of Shirley. Now, we do happen to live in a place where all three of our representatives have been highly supportive of education, and I've spoken to Jamie and Jen directly. I haven't had a chance to talk to Sheila yet about it, and they're both very supportive. What the bill does is it says, okay, so we'll acknowledge the gap is $2 billion. We're not going to take $2 billion in one fiscal year, take it from somewhere and give it all to education. That's not going to fly, and understandably so. It's a lot of money. However, 1905 says, all right, let's take 4 or 5 years to do it, and take a little piece each year to slowly get to where the appropriate level of funding should be. And again, these are the primary gaps. So that partnership that we can do is going to benefit both of us. If the education is more properly funded, then the amount of money we have to come back for assessment each year is going to go down, right? It's very simple.
It should.
It should.
It should.
It should. Well, taking FY15 alone,
Yeah.
right? We would have hardly had to ask for anything if we were giving what it actually does cost
Yeah.
to provide health insurance for all of our employees, and what it actually costs today to teach special education students. There are two pieces of that formula that they didn't foresee in 1993. I mean, hey, lots of us went to school when special education wasn't even a thing, right? So it's taken time to learn. It was just, it wasn't a department that you focused on. It was
room 13.
It was right, room 13, right?
In Medford.
Right?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good for kids, that's
No.
for sure.
Well, in my
No.
school, the kids sat in the back of the room,
Yeah.
and the teacher said, Harry Lee, sit down.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Unfortunate.
So that's a population that requires special services, special skilled people, attention, and safety and medication. And there's a health component, there's an emotional component, there's an educational component. So
Is this getting any traction?
it is getting traction.
Yeah.
It is getting traction. We just need to keep hammering away on it and not let
But
it.
it doesn't hurt to preach to the choir. So even though our people
No.
aren't on board, it doesn't hurt to tell them that you're with them and you're supporting them. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the governor, in this budget, he's starting to address some of the health costs in his budget. Not nearly to close any gap, but they do acknowledge and recognize and support and all agree that the gap in the foundation budget is, it's a chasm that, and again, as Mr. Kelly pointed out, it causes school districts to go to the towns to fund things. And I would say that, through reallocation, we have two, technology teachers in the elementary school. We're doing a lot of things in the budget where we reallocate some of the funds when the needs change, so that we don't have to increase the budget to improve the education in the school district. I take a lot of pride in that, and I think the towns and the parents and the students and the school committee does too, because we've done a lot in the last 3 years. Programs have grown, the performing arts is exploding, athletics is exploding, the academics, we're acquiring new resources, which has been sorely needed for many years. The facilities themselves, I think everyone could agree, have improved. The grounds, the lighting. When I came to the Page Hilltop, I mean, you couldn't see going to your car. It was, So, I think.
Well, it's
But when
cost
we-
of doing business. Huh?
Right, but when you get hit with these fixed, with costs at a million increase to your budget,
When you get 60% of reimbursement for transportation.
right? When the charter isn't
I mean,
funded,
It's not a lot more money, but it's.
Yeah.
no. But
Well, I
it's-
think we would, you know,
Compound it.
Well, sped transportation is huge,
Yeah.
on top of the sped
Right.
tuitions.
Right.
And, and you're not funding it. And they have circuit breaker, and that's always a question. Are they really gonna fund the circuit breaker?
Depending upon how high you go over it too. So.
Yeah.
So you're sitting here with some instabilities, but this is the best information at the moment.
That's good, we're unstable. Unstable.
He's stably unstable.
In relationship to town meeting and school issues, we're likely to ask for a warrant article to establish a special education stabilization fund. Yeah, it's a brand new thing.
Doesn't work.
Like any other stabilization fund, so we would take some portion of E&D that the school committee approves and put into a stabilization fund. The big wild card for us is special education, right? So we established a capital stabilization, but except for a few steam pipes that have busted, we can kind of plan that expenditure out. Special education can happen quite quickly.
Right. Well, you
And-
just one person.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you just need one,
Yeah.
right, one student. And I think the special education department does a great job, and we want to, because we can't come back to the towns. Once the budget's set, the budget is set. We can't come back and say, hey, somebody moved in, not like when it was just air. If it was just air, that could happen. We say, guys, we need help. And so as we find efficiencies in some place, and we can put that and set aside, it could only be and had to be used for special education costs only. But it would give us a little bit of a buffer for situations that we can't anticipate. Dr. Maloney?
No, I was just going to add that when I first came, I think we were at about 23% of the total population was special education, and we're down now to about 20. So between either students graduating or coming off of IEPs, I think in establishing that ASRSD program that keeps kids in district. So we're working to try to manage and provide services to kids without it having to come to the towns for more money. And certainly at the end of every year, it's always good that a school district ends a budget with not having to go back and ask towns or the municipalities for more money. And I think the school committee and myself have done some responsible budgeting in that area to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I take pride in that as well.
Do you guys have anything in the stabilization? Can I have anything in it? Do you know?
Right.
We
That you
put,
just established?
yeah, we
Not the
put,
capital, you got 200,000.
Yeah.
right, in the capital, we put 200 in the capital right away,
Okay.
and that's in there today.
OPEB? Anybody talk about it? I don't like the subject myself, but Scott loves it.
I do.
Well, tell us all about it, Scott.
It's a known liability.
No, we have not
Oh,
yet.
yeah, okay.
We have not yet.
But you're right.
No, I'm Scott's right.
Scott.
I don't like it, I work in the post office. It's $5.5 billion a year that we're.
Yeah, because our liability has gone down once the school's regionalized, but that
Right.
just means liability sits with you, so that's going to come back down our way at some point.
Yeah.
We should encourage everybody to retire as soon as they could, while they were still on the air.
Janice, you have anything? Robert?
No, I'm glad we had the meeting because I swear in the newspaper the other day when they told the increase and I nearly fell over. Now that I've seen it in this, it's like, oh, okay, that makes much more sense. So I don't know who wrote the article, but it was like really, it was really badly written. I mean, it was absolutely increasing $11 million or something, and I'm like falling over, going, what? That's got to be a typo. Yeah, they put wrong numbers in.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I think something as complex as this is really hard to get into a newspaper article anyway, so
Yeah.
that's understandable. There's so many terms and, you know, like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
So, yeah, I was like, I know that's a typo because I don't think they would do that. So, I think you guys did the best you can as far as trying to figure out how to decrease costs without decreasing services and everything.
And I want to thank Bill and Mary and Pat particularly for putting this together so well and such an excellent presentation.
Thank you, Joyce.
I actually have just a capital question. So going through the budget packet, I know there's been talk about looking at the track and the field up at the high school. And the question that I end up being asked as a member of the finance committee is when we have a new high school, we have a recently built middle school. Are the elementary schools themselves, and are there any plans on the horizon to do? Right now the capital is calling for $500,000 into Page Hilltop. Is there any plans on the horizon to at least start discussing, what a correct,
Study.
some kind of a study as to whether to rehab, rebuild, or what the options would be?
And I think you should be the chair of that, Scott, and we should get it started tomorrow.
Another hat
So,
for you.
Be careful when you ask
I
questions.
have a midterm to take tomorrow. So.
No, I think this is something that
We
we're
know
all
it's
talking
something
about.
coming. The committee did choose to not submit anything to MSBA this year.
Okay.
So that won't, and actually that deadline's right about now,
Mm.
right? So,
I think we need a two-town study of a number of leading people to sit down and even start thinking about this and separating it out and looking at all the possibilities and all the things that need to be done and can be done. And I think, we've kind of waited a little bit till the whole money hit so that people weren't maybe got a little over sticker shock. But it's now time to get this group together, or get a group together to do a fairly in-depth study of what's needed. Because otherwise we can fly off in all kinds of different directions, and we want a lot of input on this. So it's something that I've been wanting to get started and kind of waiting until things settle down, and surely a minute or two, so that we have a stable group there. And I think that's happened now, so things can move forward within the next 6 months to a year, to maybe even a year and a half before the study's done. It really needs to be in-depth with a lot of information.
We're still closing out the MSBA project for the high school.
Mhm.
That's going to be about another 6 to 8 months out before the project is totally closed. And as far as the track and the field, that's an imminent project right now because we're going to have to do something about the track. The track is not going to be safe too much longer. So we're going to have to look at expending some dollars there. And Robert and we've been working together on that project.
It's not even that old.
The track,
Yeah. It's 10, maybe. 10 years old. I'd love to see one elementary school. Just I'm throwing it out there.
Well, there's the coaching.
I think that's one of the things to be
Talk about,
discussed,
to be discussed.
right?
Grab a piece of land up at Devon's,
Regional.
plop it there,
A regional.
Yep.
save a lot of money in repairs and the other two.
And there is land there.
Well, it'd be a lot cheaper for everybody instead of building 2 elementary schools.
Exactly. But
I'm sure there'll be some feelings about that.
and I would say, we've done a lot of work. Part of the problem was probably some deferred maintenance.
High school.
At the older buildings, and we've addressed that over the last 3 years. And our new facilities director, not only is he a director, he also is a tradesman. So he's able to do a lot of that HVAC and changing the fans. So we're saving money there, troubleshooting some of the problems. And he and Brian Philbrown can install a fan on the roof of the Page Hilltop. So we do have a solid infrastructure in maintenance within the district right now that is cost saving. And believe it or not, Laura White is pretty stable, and with
knock on
when
wood.
fans, I know I shouldn't say it, but
Jonathan's knocking on
when
wood.
fans aren't running and things aren't operating as they should, then it causes malfunction in the whole system. So you've got to make sure that all parts, all fans, all filters and things are all being taken care of properly, and then things run better.
Some of that money for contracts, for maintenance contracts, are going to maybe stop some hysterias that when stuff goes up. So And those things weren't done in a maintenance way, and
Yeah.
he's been doing a really good job of
Yeah.
overlooking that whole thing, so.
Robert?
Just 3 quick points. One, to sort of echo what Scott Hood said, and I've said this to you, Dr. Malone, and to others, on the issue of the elementary school. There is definitely an interest from the town of Ayer, and it's encouraging to hear, to begin to put together that plan for that study. And I know, the first person to say it's a huge undertaking, and I know that a lot of folks did excellent work on the high school. I know you've got a lot of good folks looking at the assessment for the track and so forth, and you're trying to close out this project. But I think, as we all know, it's a multi-year process, and I think the time is upon us at least to begin to set the stage to prepare for that discussion and that study, because even if we all know, if sitting here right now we had a definitive plan on the elementary school, it could be several years easily before that becomes a reality. I think we can all agree, though, on the flip side, and knock on the linoleum, as they say, that we've been fortunate that we haven't had, a major system collapse or so forth. Previously, having come from Fitchburg, we had a junior high school where the heating system completely went, and we spent close to $250,000 for a semester of portable heat and so forth. I'm not saying we're there yet, but I think we can agree that both elementary schools, there are some challenges there, and we need to put together that plan moving forward. Secondly, I know that you have put together the assessment committee to look at a plan to put forth as it pertains to the track, based on some of the immediate concerns that have to be addressed with that. So I do appreciate that. And lastly, my third point is, where this is a partnership, and you made the presentation to Ayer, and you're here as the district. I understand you were in Shirley previously. I'm just interested as to what was Shirley's response to the FY8 assessment. I mean, in their case, their portion is 6.6%. How was that received in Shirley? I'm just curious.
After we did the presentation, they basically went off to a meeting of their own and said they had to look at it. So we haven't heard anything back, and
Okay.
they're not likely to too soon. But I'm going to inquire about that this week.
That was with probably the previous selectmen, and now
No,
there's
the
the
new
new
ones.
ones. Oh, it was with the new ones?
Well,
Okay.
It was their first meeting.
The new selectmen wanted to take some time to look through it and
Yeah.
digest it, and the finance committee's the one that was meeting right after, and they were gonna take a look at it and put their questions together.
That was
I
last
think
week.
the immediate visceral reaction, our first pass at the budget, before we had the full foundation numbers, we were coming in at 5.1, which they were thrilled to pieces. And then 10 days later, it's at 6.6, so the reaction is understandable. So you have to explain how we got there based on 14 students.
It was just
Right, it was the RLC once the budget
RLC.
came out, so,
But there's a
yeah.
big trade-off also with money coming back from the trade school, because our enrollment is down there, so that's going to take about a third of that number off.
And I think what was helpful is the fact we did that workshop with Mass Budget last year. There was an understanding of kind of the basic concepts of what the required local contribution is and what drives it, and that that's a state formula, a number that we have nothing to do with based on their enrollment. So I think the reaction last year was pretty visceral when they saw the increase, but it was really being driven by the RLC and their adjustment over the 6 years with Ayer. With that adjustment out of the way, with them having an understanding of what the RLC is, and that this state-driven number not part of what we're doing, I think that it calmed the reaction a little bit. They said, okay, we have more kids, and it costs money to educate kids, and the formula calls for a certain amount of money per student. So I think that helped calm the reaction compared to last year when the RLC really drove it then too, but they didn't have the understanding of what the RLC was and how that played into the whole assessment.
And we've never had that problem there, as far as giving enough money, as opposed to Shirley.
Oh, meeting the target.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, if you take out the RLC and you look at the assessment between both towns, it's about $400,000. We showed you that the increased cost of the net around $900,000. So with entering into the aggregate electrical purchase, reducing $64,000 there, there's several ways that the school district has taken responsibility and is trying to, you've given us another great suggestion on the green, looking for grants. So, I think it's we try to share the burden. And we do that by looking for ways and taking recommendations from both towns and on the energy piece and the health insurance piece. and all of that. So I think that needs to be recognized that outside of the RLC, that 400,000, 900,000, we're looking, the school district did do some major financial contributions, if you will, to that overall fixed cost increase, and try not to pass it onto the towns and burden the taxpayers. So,
Guys have any input? You want to say anything? No? You all set? Thank you.
well, thank you for having us. I'm glad we could have this meeting tonight.
I know.
Iffish last night.
Sorry about last week.
Oh, that's okay. No, then the storm kind of, I was worried today.
I know, and at first the storm warning was till like 7 p.m. tonight, and I was like, oh no, don't tell me we're gonna have to reschedule this thing again.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Rob and I were emailing each other late last night.
Yeah. Just one
Robert.
quick housekeeping thing through the chair. Obviously, the Ayer town meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 8th at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium.
Yeah.
And the drop dead deadline for the warrant will be Friday, April 14th at noon. I'll send you, but we just, as we begin to put the schedule together.
Yeah, thank you. You did send it, and I was going to announce it to school committee too. That's the
You
date.
want to
Yep.
use those dates again, Robert?
May 8th is the town meeting in Ayer,
Yeah.
and we'll need everything by Friday, April 14th at noon for the purposes of the warrant.
And Shirley has pushed their town meeting back a couple of weeks,
Okay.
so it.
Oh, they did?
It's, yeah,
Yeah,
up in
yeah,
there.
May 15th, Monday night.
Yeah, it's after yours now.
Okay,
Oh,
it
really?
used to be before,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, the new selectmen felt they needed time to really
Yeah, you
look at
can't
it.
blame
So, warrant was supposed to be closed, so they changed the closing date because everybody was new and
Yes.
so
Okay.
that shifted the whole picture.
Gives us a little bit longer before we have to certify the budget.
Right, right.
Because
Yeah.
we're,
45
with all
days.
due respect, Governor Baker offered $20 a head. During Develop Patrick, we were getting $25 a student each year. Not a lot, but
Better
but it
than
was
20.
it was dependable at least. Last year, the House and the Senate turned the offer of $20 into $50 a student,
Right.
and so we're hopeful that actually there'll be a little bit more revenue that might help us make an adjustment to the budget.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge to towns, municipalities, and schools trying to build a budget without numbers,
Yeah.
solid numbers.
Yeah.
When we start in the district, we don't even have the governor's budget.
I mean, we're just
You know?
looking at, we were talking today that, we have to, well, Robert can do it himself, but we get a deficit spend on the snow.
Oh, right.
We're over our budget already, so. I don't know how.
Boston's only halfway through there, is what they were saying.
Really?
Really?
They do a
Yeah.
great job, though.
They had.
They do.
They do.
A bunch.
You drive around in all the other towns and it's horrible.
Yeah.
Thumbs up this storm. I think
Well-
we would have probably been in school today with the way they.
Yeah.
I mean, if we needed to be off, I'm not saying that.
Right. Washington, they didn't get to Washington Street
I
till
didn't mean
later.
it like that. I just meant.
No, the
like,
forecast.
Because they
didn't
did
come
such a
through.
They
good
did
job.
such a great job. Like,
Yeah.
I was
They
like,
did.
geez, these
They
roads-
did.
Yeah, I know, it was impressive,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Press
it-
line
it-
into Harvard and it's like 3
All the
inches of
schools were
slush
right,
all
because
It
we're
was
over.
supposed to
No,
have
no, I know.
more today.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary,
Exactly.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, I'm glad to take this opportunity to commend Doug Jefferson and his crew. First of all, I want to give him accolades. I call him frequently. He answers every single call. It's 1 a.m, 4 a.m, 6 a.m. We text. He's very responsive, and I really appreciate that because he helps me in making the decision. And then the plowing and detail that they give to the schools has been excellent. So I want to publicly, I was going to send an email to the BOS and Robert, but now I'm saying it publicly and for all to hear that he's been great to work with and they've done a great job plowing. So,
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
for telling us.
thank you.
We got a big piece of parking lot.
Yeah. I got nothing.
Yeah, there's pretty big bankings up there now, boy. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they're tall now.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Good night, everyone.